Hello everyone, nubkeks here. Welcome back to Nub Raids. And in today's video, I'm going to be showing you some epic only teams that you can use to take on Hydra Rotation 5, which just came out today. The 5th rotation of the Hydra. I think I actually misspoke in some previous videos. I had thought that we were going back to Rotation 1. Turns out that's actually not the case. We're going into a brand new rotation with new affinities, new starting heads, and all the rest. So as you can see, by the way, just to show you so we don't go through the whole run in today's video, but boom, there we go. One key on normal, no problem, and let's go. By the way, of course, what I'm going to be doing over the next couple of weeks is my standard thing. I always start off day one with epic only teams to get newer players that are struggling with Hydra, to help you building your teams to take on normal and even hard. I will do then a one key hard team in a couple of days time, so before the weekend usually, and then I'll be moving on to Nightmare after that to show you like the best teams and really how to take stuff like this down. But anyway, let's dive in. In fact, let me just dive in once more to the actual key really quickly to talk about what has changed. This is easier than the last rotation, right? It's very similar to rotation 4, but it is easier. So you can wipe that sort of drop of sweat off your brow. Don't worry, it's not so bad. Now, we do have the trifecta of annoying heads. We have Decay, who cleanses. We have the Poison Cloud head, Blight, who puts the Poison Cloud and poisons. And we have Mischief, who's obviously stealing your buffs. So we still have the 3 of those, which is a nasty, nasty combo. The big difference this week is that instead of the Head of Wrath, we have the Head of Suffering. This has a couple of big benefits and a couple of smaller drawbacks. The main benefit is that Head of Wrath does a ton of damage, absolute ton of damage, so him being gone makes it much easier and much safer. You don't have to worry about your team getting just one shot blown up by Wrath. Makes it much less stressful to run your keys. There's less damage coming in, you need less healing, less support, and it makes it more forgiving to build your team comp. Another nice thing, it actually makes HP burn much better as well. Every time HP burn ticks, it would tick up Wrath's counter, his vengeance counter, which can be pretty scary. We don't have to worry about that, so that's nice. And also, as you can see, Head of Suffering is extremely slow, which is great. It's going to mean that these Hydra Devour things tick down slower, and that's a really, really good thing. He does have this annoying extra turn deal, but you should actually be pretty good to smash through, get your one key long before you'd reach the point of being 2 turns to be devoured. You get devoured by Suffering, and then he takes an extra turn and you're gone. That should not happen too often, so at least on normal hard. So we should be pretty good. But there you go. And as you can see as well, their affinities have changed. And this is going to affect the teams that we put together, guys. It's going to affect them, right? The affinities have changed. So unfortunately, this rotation, Magic Affinity isn't as good. And that sucks. Champions like Royal Guard and Ugo, who have been staples of our teams before, they can still work. They can. But they're not as good. And there's going to be probably better options overall. So yeah, we're going to be looking for Spirit Affinity. Is going to be really good. Force Affinity is going to be really good as well. And yeah, I mean, if you're going to be running lots of Force Affinity champions, it might be a good idea to reset your run if Head of Wrath does show up, because he's going to crit you a lot. He's going to crit your Force champions a lot and stuff. So yeah, that would be my recommendation. Would be probably to run away if he shows up, but be ready to deal with Head of Torment. Would be my advice, right? My advice. Now, let's look at building the team comps and what we're going to be looking for. A few rule of thumbs in terms of building our team. So, number 1, I really recommend bringing in 2 damage dealers, right? 2 damage dealers is probably your best go-to thing. So you're getting out a good amount of damage. When one person gets eaten, you always have at least one other damage dealer ready to break them out again. So that's what I highly recommend. This team, we're actually kind of light on it because I don't have a ton of epic damage dealers built out. I have more legendaries built out. But I've got Mordecai, who's doing AoE HP burn. So he's one of my damage dealers. A little bit of a loose one, a bit of a pseudo damage dealer. But nonetheless, Mordecai is good. AoE HP burn. Again, we don't have to worry about Head of Wrath ticking up his vengeance counter, so he is very strong. Any AoE HP burner is going to be good, but Mordecai, and I think Tunisia, who's a Void Legendary, if you have her, I think they can put HP burn on through Poison Cloud, which is very useful. We'll talk about a couple of nice tricks in a sec. And then Husk. Husk is basically your Royal Guard equivalent. He does what Royal Guard does, except he's Force Affinity. So Husk is very, very good here, right? Husk is very good. Now, what alternatives will we have to these? Really, any Spirit Affinity damage dealer, any Force Affinity damage dealer is going to be good. For example, on normal, because Husk's damage is based off max HP, he's actually going to be fairly weak here. If you are, have some legendaries, this is where actually, your Cleopteryx, she got buffed. She's going to be a really good source of AoE damage, even better than her. I actually think Yannicka, who you get from the clan shop from Fragments, and you can get her very, very early into the game. Yannicka is really good for this, and she also brings you an attack aura. So you've got some great options there that you could bring in the accessible legendaries that are Spirit Affinity. They could work really well. Magnar, I don't have Magnar built up yet, but I would highly recommend, where's my Magnar? Magnar. I still have him at 50 with no gear on, I'm afraid. Need to get him up. But Magnar, obviously incredible for Arena. He's going to be a really strong direct damage dealer against this week's rotation. So you've got some good options there in Spirit, right? For your big damage dealers, and similar things for Force as well. So that's your damage, right? Next up, one thing I really like, and you can see we're using 2 login champions for this. I think this makes your runs much easier. You'll really notice the difference, is increase speed and decrease speed. Bringing these 2 things, having that speed control, makes a massive difference. In this case, Hydra and Tanix Hateflower, 2 login champions. Hydra brings us increased speed. Tanix brings us AoE decreased speed. Also some nice healing. So they're 2 guaranteed options, right? Everyone's going to have those champions. So they're good. They're not best in slot by any means. You can get better options, but they're definitely things to consider. So yeah, other increased speed options that are good. Honestly, Archmage Helmet, it's not a good rotation for him in terms of affinity, but Archmage can be a good increased speed person for you, but you might want to be bringing in a block buffs champion if that is the case. You don't really want the enemy heads stealing and getting increased crit rate, which he does put on. That's pretty bad. So that's something to bear in mind. For decreased speed, actually for decreased speed, a really good champion here is actually going to be Sylar. Void Epic. Sylar brings you AoE decreased speed, also AoE decreased accuracy, and I'm going to talk about the importance of that later. I actually think that Golden Reaper, in terms of epics, is probably your best increase speed person. She gives you increased speed more effectively than Hydra, and she can reduce your cooldowns a bit as well with her A1, AoE decrease attack. So she does a number of useful things. But yeah, again, there's plenty of good options here. So those are the 2 sort of things we're looking for there. Then we have AoE decreased defense, which I'm bringing in Stag Knight. So Stag Knight's great for this. You could also bring in Deacon Armstrong, gives you a speed aura as well for AoE decreased defense. He's going to be really, really good. Yeah, I mean, obviously Ugo not going to be quite as good this rotation because of the affinity issues, but you're basically actually think she'd be really good too. Zargala, lots of good options for that AoE decreased defense just to up your damage. Also, Stag Knight has the advantage. You can see I don't even have him fully leveled. I've been working on him. He has the advantage of AoE decreased attack as well, and also the advantage of putting some decreased speed. I mean, Madame Ceres in terms of epics would be another good option with some buff stripping too. And then finally, we want someone to heal us up and to revive us, right? We will want a reviver in there. The Head of Suffering can put reflect damage on himself. So if you have a Husk in there, he will quite possibly one-shot himself with a max HP nuke on the Head of Suffering. So we want a reviver. I think Rector Drath is your go-to. Plenty of healing out of her. Single target revive, brings perfect veil as well, which is really nice. It means that, hey, if we ever kill these heads and the Head of Torment comes in, Rector Drath is giving us perfect veils, so she's already giving us an answer to killing that Head of Torment, which is very, very valuable. Obviously, there are other good options here as well. Melga is a great option, lots of healing, shielding for your team as well, and revive too, so Melga is going to be great. Let me see who else would be really good here. Obviously we could go into the epics. We could look at something like Godseeker Aniri is going to be really good. If we have other healers on the team, you could bring in something like Ursula. Brings you AoE Strengthen as well, which is going to help you block the AoE Weaken from Head of Suffering. So there's good options there too. Potentially, if you're not getting one shot, if your champions aren't dying, you might get away just having a healer and not having any reviver. That can work as well. So anyone that's going to do lots of healing can be good. So something like an Epic, something like a Vrask could be really good here. Whereas the Vrask Spirit Affinity does lots of healing. Maybe Steel Skull would be okay. That sort of thing. I'd personally really recommend bringing in Rector, because Rector gives you the answer to Head of Torment if he does show up. So yeah, that gives you a broad gist of the epic only teams. You can see I put together a couple of different examples here. Oh, I didn't even talk about Geomancer. Good thing I made this up to show you a couple of examples. Or Grush. Here we go. So Geomancer obviously is still really good this rotation, especially on the higher difficulties. Gives your team damage reduction, that single target HP burn, reflecting damage. He is an absolutely fantastic damage dealer. And then Grush the Mangler, another login reward champion who does a good affinity with Spirit, and he does a lot of AoE healing. Really good healing for you. So he is a great option. And then when we jump in, and like I said, you start including potentially some of the legendaries that you can get easily. We can have, like I said, Yannicka, fantastic. Obviously, Arbiter is going to be really good this rotation as well. She might even be good enough to be your main healer. There's not as much damage coming at you, so Arbiter can actually do a really good job of topping you up. I felt that against Head of Wrath, it got a bit scary, right? She could, because your Arbiter might not be super tanky, Head of Wrath could make it kind of scary, but Arbiter's going to be great here, help you remove some of those buffs. Lydia, obviously fantastic. Vizix, AoE decrease speed, ally protection. Vizix is going to be great here without Head of Wrath. You will be able to keep her alive if you got your Mithrala. She is obviously amazing as well. And we should also mention Drexthar here, guys. Drexthar is super good. Whenever he is hit, he will put HP burn on the enemy team, right? He'll put HP burn out there on whoever hits him. Easier if he's booked up, of course, higher chance. But this gives you a really consistent source of HP burn, and you can build him up as a high resistance champion, make him slow, and he'll often be targeted by Head of Mischief, which is great if he has the most buffs on you, and that's great. Easy to build him with high resistance. He gets bonus resistance for every HP burn that's out there, and he can resist Head of Mischief and make your run even easier. So he's a great source of guaranteed HP burn. Now, let me talk about this. Let me jump into this in terms of resistance and accuracy. Let me throw this up for you guys as well here, right? So these are the stats that you want for normal and for hard. So because Head of Suffering is in there, he's upping the accuracy requirements, but as you can see, they're still very low. You want 190 accuracy for normal, you want 240 for hard. I mean, preferably even a little bit higher, like 210 would be really good, and 260 would be great for hard. But these accuracy requirements, they're easy to hit. That's very low. That's really low, so that's not bad. Now, the resistance requirements, as you can see, are quite a bit higher. This is to consistently resist Head of Mischief. So 350 on normal, 410 on hard. That is intensive in terms of gearing. So being able to resist Mischief is maybe something you won't be able to do. This number in the brackets is the resistance you require if you have decreased accuracy on Head of Mischief. So this should illustrate to you how important decreased accuracy can be and how much easier it can make your runs. Like hitting 255 resistance for hard, if you have decreased accuracy on Head of Mischief, makes it much, much easier, actually. It makes it much more forgiving, and then you don't have to worry about buffs being stolen, turn meter being stolen. Yeah, and all that sort of stuff is great. So there you go. They're the stats you might want to consider. The final thing I want to talk about is how to get around the poison head. I think that's also an important thing. So there's a couple of sneaky strategies we can use. So sneaky strategy number one, and arguably the easiest one, if you have Mordecai or anyone who can put HP burn on through Poison Cloud, Geomancer, Tunisia, etc., you can, again, just hold on to your AoE HP burn until Poison Cloud goes out, put out your AoE HP burn, and you're good. Another decent option if you don't have that is to use block buffs. This can make the start of your run much easier, and we can come in, and I'll just do this not on auto just to make sure we land it. But basically, we want to get decreased speed on this head over here. I mean, so we can heal the start, doesn't really matter. We don't want to put out AoE decrease speed. We want to slow down this head right here. We'll have to restart. This is using Stagnite, single target. So let's do it again. But basically, we want to get a single target decrease speed on the Head of Decay, which can slow him down. Pretty nice. If we slow him down, we can actually make him go and cleanse after the Poison Cloud has done the Poison Cloud move. So we can actually block Poison Cloud from ever going on. So this can be a very useful thing as well. You do need to land decreased speed on this head, on the Head of Decay, and not on Head of Blight. That's a bit awkward, unfortunately. Stagnite, for example, is weak affinity, but here we go. We can increase speed ourselves. Then we put out our block buffs, and yeah, we can start like slamming some damage and whatnot. Just to give you an idea, yeah, sure, we can heal ourselves, that's fine. Poison Cloud gets blocked. Then he's going to come, we'll actually do her A1. We're a little bit too fast for normal here. But there you go, and then we can start hitting auto, and now we don't have to worry about Poison Cloud, right? And that's going to make it much easier. Obviously, don't let her use Undying Evil. That's not good. But yeah, that's a really handy way to get around Poison Cloud using block buffs. the alternative is using an AoE HP burn as well. Both of those can work. Both are viable. But yeah, there you go, guys. Like I said, I feel like this rotation, it's a good bit easier than the previous rotation. You don't need half as much healing or defense, which makes it much, much easier. So there you go. Let me know how it goes for you. Let me know any comps you find that are very effective. Obviously, of course, once you can, start putting in champions that are legendary, you can start to make this much easier for yourself, much, much quicker. So that is definitely something, to bear in mind. If you're able to do that, that's where things start getting good, right? Start getting really good. So if we can have, Yannicka in for attack aura, Lydia for increased speed, then we could put in, for decreased speed, we could have something like a Sylar in there, decreased speed, decreased accuracy. And like we're going to be fairly slamming through. We might want to put in one more damage dealer here. Like maybe I'll take her out and I'll put in the Mordecai. And now I'm feeling it's a much better composition. Like we're really going to slam through, no problem. But anyway, I'll be back with the one key team for hard when I've had some time to experiment and really nail it down. And then back after that as well for Nightmare in the following weeks. Guys, thanks for watching. Good luck. And I will see you next time. Bye-bye.